Hey everybody, this is Jonty from Optolingo coming at you at day 2 of my 30-day experiment to document my and my family's efforts to live and work abroad in a foreign country for just shy of a month. And today I wanted to get into a little bit more of the background of my family, who we are, why we are attempting to do this, and how we actually got to this point. And the reason I wanted to share this is I think all too often there is a dream of people who want to learn a foreign language, of living or working or spending an extended period of time in a foreign country where that language is spoken. And I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I think oftentimes when we think of people who have successfully been able to do that, we think of people with financial means above our own, or we think of people who are very young without a whole lot of family or financial commitments, or perhaps people who are very old, who are retired and also don't have a whole lot of family or financial commitments. So in my case, for people who know me, some of this is going to be a review. For people who don't know me, then this may be new, but hopefully it's not going to be boring, and I'll be brief about it. So as of the recording of this video, I'm 42 years old. I'm an ethnic Circassian. My mother and father came to the United States from the Middle East. I was born here, and growing up, although for most of my life I only spoke English, I was always exposed to various languages ranging from Arabic to Turkish to Russian to Circassian, a little bit of Hebrew, and that was just within my family and extended family and cultural community. It really wasn't until the age of 31 that I started to learn Circassian in earnest. And it wasn't really until my mid-30s, I would say early 40s, where I felt like I had enough of a grasp of some of the languages that I speak today, where I feel comfortable engaging with ethnic, what's the word I'm looking for? Native speakers, sorry, of that language. So how do we get here? Well, I have 4 kids in total. 2 are teenagers. They're from my first marriage. Their mother is also an ethnic Circassian. They don't live with me. I live here in Chicago, although we visit quite often. And then I have my children from my second marriage who live here with me in Chicago. My second wife is also an ethnic Circassian, although she was born in Russia. So when we started to form our family, we decided very early on that we were going to make a variety of different lifestyle and financial decisions that would allow us to spend extended time in Russia. So within Russia, in the North Caucasus, that's where the Circassians are from, and then very specifically within the I'm going to say this in English, then I'll say it in Circassian, but in the Kabardino-Balkarian Republic, or Kabardino-Balkari Republik, that is the semi-autonomous region within the Russian Federation that our families, both her family as well as my family, are from. And here, just a slight note, within the Russian Federation operates a little bit like the United States in that there are a number of regions or oblasts or states, similar to what we have in the United States, that comprise the entirety of the Russian Federation. Within that political construct, there are, I believe, 7 semi-autonomous regions. And the relationship and the status that these regions have within the Russian Federation, I would say, as a US citizen, is very similar to the relationship and the status that Puerto Rico has within the United States. It's not quite a perfect parallel, but there are some commonalities. It's a region that's south of the main region. In both cases, Puerto Ricans and people from the North Caucasus semi-autonomous republics are citizens. The language of English, the language of Russian is spoken, but there's also these ethnic languages that are also spoken. The cultures are similar, but they're still a little distinct, so on and so forth. So that is the place that we are going to go. And in terms of all the planning, how did we get here? Well, we did make these decisions very early on in our relationship, in our marriage, and our family planning to be able to do these sorts of things. Practically, though, what does that mean? It means that from a budgeting standpoint, rather than eating out or buying a new car or fancy clothes or whatever, we save our money so that we can take these extended times off. And the other thing is, and I've seen other people, family people, working people like myself who have done this. The other thing is, since our children effectively were born, my wife, because she does not work, she does not have a job outside the home. That's a better way of saying it. My wife would take our children, first my older son, because he was born first, and then eventually both our younger children. She would take them for extended periods of time, a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and she would spend time with them there, in large part to help them reconnect or connect or retain their ethnic heritage, their cultural heritage, their identity, their language skills. And in the beginning of our family planning, what we would do is I would fly with her. I would spend a week. I would help her bring the children there. I would spend a week there. I would come back. She would then spend X number of weeks or months there. I would then fly back again, help her with the children, and come back. And that's how things kind of operated for the first couple of years. Now, though, with this experiment that we're undertaking, it's effectively the first time ever that all of us are going at the same time and spending an extended period of time over there. So there's a number of little things that we did in order to be able to get here, besides the financial stuff. So case in point, forget the visa and passport and booking the airfare. Practically speaking, we don't have any family who live with us here in Chicago. So holding the mail, right? Going to the post office and saying, hey, we're going to be away. We need you to hold our mail so that it doesn't pile up. Making sure that many of our bills are prepaid. The ones that are not prepaid, we receive electronically so that we can pay them while we're there. Making sure that we have internet access while we are there so that I can continue to manage our affairs in the United States, also work remotely during that period of time. So that's a lot of stuff that we did in the pre-planning phase. The other thing is we decided that we are going to rent a furnished apartment for the duration of our time there. And so that helps out quite a lot as well. It's more affordable and more homey than staying in a hotel. But of course, the fact that my wife is a Russian citizen, is fluent in Russian, grew up in the region, knows where to look and how to navigate herself over there, that makes things infinitely easier than if I were attempting to do this on my own without the benefit of her assistance. The other thing is, while we're there, we've made a lot of effort to plan out our time there. On the one hand, you don't want to go and have everything so structured and rigid that it feels like you have a second job. On the other hand, you don't want to go there and just have nothing planned and have two small toddlers looking at you every day wondering, what are we going to do today? So in our case, we have kind of a semi-rigid plan for what we want to do while we're there. In my wife's case, she has her own friends and family that she's going to be visiting. I have friends and family that I'll be visiting as well. She has a number of, I would call them mini projects that she wants to accomplish while she's there. In my case, going to the gym every day, as I do here, or probably 5 days a week, as I do here, that's something I wanted to embed within my schedule. So we specifically chose an apartment that was not far from a gym that she's familiar with that I can go to. And that's just part of making sure that I have a routine every day. Also, we've identified a Russian tutor, and I plan to spend about 2 hours a day with that Russian tutor to continue to go from what's probably a B1 level of Russian, at least in terms of testing, to a B1, maybe B2 level of Russian in everyday speech. Reading and writing, I feel very comfortable. I don't do a whole lot of speaking because in our household, we don't use Russian, we use Circassian. So that's something that was important to me. And I figured if I'm going to be in the region anyways, why not do that? I have not made any efforts to find a Circassian tutor. The only reason being, I think I'm past the point of tutoring. That's not to say that I'm perfect in my Circassian speech, but I think that my Circassian improvement will continue to evolve just through everyday interaction with native speakers of the language, as well as reading and writing every day as I do in my daily life as it stands today. So, all that planning, making sure that when we go, we actually have meaningful things to do. In our case, the major goal is to just relax and be in a place that we love and be around people that we love. But also we want to make sure that there's little goals like staying in shape, being active every day, taking advantage of the opportunity to be in an immersive environment, and in my case, to get Russian tutoring. We've also decided to put our children, right now, as of the recording of this video, they're 2 and 5 years old. We've decided to put them into a daycare program to give them some structure and, frankly, to give them some exposure to other children of their own age. And we did this before, or my wife did this before last summer when she was there without me, or when I was not there for a long period of time because, help her bring the kids there, fly back. So I was there, just not for a long period of time. And what we did then was we put them into a program with lots of Circassian speakers. I think that's the goal this time around as well, but we also want to give them a little bit more exposure to Russian, to make sure they're able to advance that language skill as well. And here's where I want to pause for just a moment and point out something that is a little unique about my circumstances, and then I'm going to end this video on talking about something that is, in my opinion, not unique at all. So the thing that's a little unique about my situation, our situation as a family, is we are a multilingual family. There's a lot of discussion. My wife and I will often discuss what's the difference between a polyglot and a multilingual. This is just my personal opinion. I'm not even sure my wife agrees with me on this, but a polyglot, in my opinion, is somebody who seeks to learn different languages out of a passion or a joy or as a hobby. A multilingual person is somebody who practically must use those languages in everyday life in order to lead his or her everyday life. So what do I mean by that? I speak a little bit of French. I speak a lot of German. I have no ethnic or cultural or business ties to either of these two countries. So by virtue, if that was all I ever did, I would speak English, French, and German. I would be a polyglot because I learned those languages out of curiosity and interest in those cultures. I don't live there. I don't work there. I don't have family there. In my daily life, I regularly use or am exposed to English, Circassian, Russian, Arabic, and Turkish in that order. And I'm not saying I speak all those languages very well. English, Russian, English and Circassian very well. Russian, okay. I understand a lot of Arabic. When I'm around it, it comes back because as a child, I was exposed to a lot of it. Turkish, I've kind of danced around with. I have a lot of family in Turkey. So again, it's probably maybe at an A1 just in terms of comprehension. But the reason that these languages are part of my life is, well, historically, they've always been a part of my life because I've had family in these regions. And also in order to interact with my own family, my own flesh and blood, as well as extended members of the Circassian community, these are languages that I need for interaction with Circassians who don't speak these languages, or these are languages that just pop up in my social media feed because in as much as I use English as my dominant language because I live in the United States, my relatives, even those or other non-relatives, but ethnic Circassian friends and extended family who speak Circassian will use Russian or Arabic or Turkish in their social media feeds as well. So even when my cousin Mehmet, hi Mehmet, even my cousin Mehmet who lives in Turkey, who speaks Circassian, he will often post something in Turkish. And so, whether it's using a little bit of a lesson that I took a few weeks ago, or just daily practice, or a combination of Google Translate and memory, I'll often be exposed to Turkish as part of my daily routine just because I like to keep up with what my friends and family are doing on social media. So that's a little bit of a side note where I think our family circumstances are perhaps a bit different than others because we, use of or exposure to five languages: English, Russian, Circassian, Arabic, Turkish. Yes. So use of and exposure to 5 languages is somewhat unique, but then the need to use Russian in order to visit my ethnic homeland is somewhat unique as well. And that's why, when you've seen my videos or you've checked out my blog, you'll often hear me talking about studying or maintaining multiple languages at the same time. And in as much as I sometimes will often say that newcomers to language learning should probably avoid these things because of my multilingual family situation, it's a necessity for me. So That's the part that's a little unique. And in some of these videos, if you hear me talking about English and Circassian and Russian all at the same time, it's simply because it's almost like if you were from Russia and you went to Puerto Rico, you would need English because when you go through passport control, it's the U.S. government that manages that. But if you want to speak with everyday people on the street, they're, I'm sure every Puerto Rican speaks English to some level, but I'm also sure that many Puerto Ricans would feel more comfortable speaking Spanish in their everyday interactions. And it's a similar thing where I'm going, with one caveat that roughly half the people there are not Circassian, and not all the Circassians speak Circassian because it is an endangered language, and ergo the need for Russian in everyday practical interactions. So I want to end this video on the note that I mentioned before in talking about how I'm not that different from a lot of people. So it can be done, right? What I mean by that is I'm not some rich guy who has unlimited wealth and can fly first class whenever he wants to any place in the world. I'm a working person. I have a career. I have a job. I have to take time off from work in order to do this. I have children. So, navigating literally halfway around the world, going from Chicago to New York, New York to Moscow, Moscow down to Nalchik, which is the capital of Kabardino-Balkaria, the Kabardian, I can't even say it in English, the Kabardian-Balkarian Republic, Kabardino-Balkaria, going to Nalchik. That's a 24-hour trek when you count airplane check-in time, security, transfer, all that other stuff. Bringing luggage, bringing baggage, including children's stuff, toys, games, clothing, cold weather gear for this time of year. It is logistically complex, but it absolutely can be done. And if I can do it, I think absolutely anybody can do it. And that's really a lot of what I'm trying to share with these videos. I apologize if some of them sound rambling. I apologize if they're not scripted, because they're not scripted. Every single day for the next 30 days, my goal is to share what it takes to be able to do this and what it feels like to experience it. So we've got just a few days left until we go. I'll share a few more videos between now and then to talk about the planning process. And once we're there, my goal is to share something every day. It might be 5 minutes some days, it might be 25 minutes other days, I don't know yet, to share what it feels like to be in that environment where I am going to be speaking English to my wife and Circassian to my wife, because we just mix them. That's just the way that our daily speech patterns have evolved. Where I speak exclusively Circassian to my children, because that's the way that speech pattern evolved. And then I speak a combination of Circassian and Russian to most of the people who live there, because they do that subconsciously without even realizing it. And then I speak Circassian to some of the elders who don't do it that much, but then Russian to non-Circassians or younger Circassians who don't speak Circassian at all and only speak Russian. So sharing that experience, it's one thing to live the dream. The dream is probably never quite as amazing as we think. And so my goal here is really to show the nitty-gritty of what it feels like on a practical day-to-day basis. That's all I have for you guys today, but we'll see what I say tomorrow.